Hello everyone and welcome to another Starcraft 2 replay. This one's going to be part of my tutorial-ish series. And I did one on TvP when you're playing against a Protoss who decides to one base. So now we're going to do it against a Protoss who does more of a standard expansion. Production tab, someone mentioned my last tutorial video didn't really have production, which is annoying, so we'll keep that up. And yeah, so my Protoss opponent today is ill, or possibly the shortest barcode that exists, and I'm the blue Terran in the top left-hand position. So, first depot, I always still put it in the place that gives me vision on the best cannon rushing opening spot, which would be like over here. But honestly, I haven't been cannon rushed since Wings of Liberty, so maybe you can stop doing that. Maybe like the depot here, it's a little bit more efficient. Like your SCV doesn't have to travel around as much. You can go back to mining quickly. And also, if you get too gated, you can actually kind of, on certain maps, you can wall off your entire mineral area and you'll just win the game if you get the wall off down. Anyway, so standard barracks timing, standard supply depot timing. 13-19, I'm going to queue my 14th SCV to build gas. You may want to try taking this gas as soon as possible. I'm not sure how the timings work out, but this works out the best for getting you just enough gas to get the first Marauder and concussive shell. But it might slow down your stim a touch, which is really important. Stim timing is so important versus Protoss, because most Protoss expand, and if they do, it comes down to your stim timing. So the exact same openers versus one base, obviously. This is going to be my 2 racks play. So it's depot, barracks, gas, so as soon as you can afford it, the next barracks, 3 on gas immediately, first marine, then orbital commands. As soon as the first marine pops out, you want to get a reactor, and then as soon as you can afford it, it's your second supply depot. Notice the second supply depot doesn't come until after the second racks, and even though it's 17 and 19, we're not going to supply cap. SV Mule, tech lab right away on your second barracks. First marine I like to scout for proxy Stargate play. I don't think 15 Nexus is a build anymore. It's way too risky. Maybe on Whirlwind or something you might see it. But for the most part I don't scout for that anymore. As soon as these 2 barracks finish their add-ons, you want to do first round production, which is concussive shell, Marauder, 2 marines, and then build your next supply depot. You want to be building SCVs during this time too. A little bit of a fail there. I'm doing a little bit extra scouting because I realize he never scouted me, which if a Protoss is all-inning his opponent, he doesn't need to scout. So if he doesn't scout you, you should be thinking, well, maybe he's all-inning me. I mean, most smart Protoss players will scout you anyways, just so it doesn't look suspicious. But anytime you don't get scouted by a probe, you should be thinking either he might have tried a 15 Nexus and just putting everything towards economy, or he might be doing some sort of all-in. You can see he's done the standard Stalker Mothership Core expand. There's a second Stalker. He's actually scouting with his Mothership Core, which is very risky. The kind of annoying part is it arrives when I'm across the map, so if he wants to start killing SCVs, he can actually start doing that. And 2 marines pop out cannot kill that, but usually he'll end up burning away. The other thing is when he's out in the field here, it leaves him vulnerable at home. So this is going to be a little bit of an atypical game. I didn't look at these replays before I started this series, but that's okay. We have one that's a little bit different. So poke arrives. I'm not going to talk about what normally happens because hopefully the next game, I'll do 2 games in this video. Hopefully the next game covers that. Since I'm casting from replays, maybe I should turn the volume down just a touch because I know replays are a little bit louder. It's actually sending my marines back to intercept that. So you get a free Nexus kill anytime he's out in the field like that, because either he warps back home with his Mothership Core and then he can't overcharge this, Or he flies back home, and he flies back home, it's just going to take too long. In that case, he might have been able to make it back in time if he weren't intercepted. So anytime you finish a poke, I would not suggest going up the ramp. It's just a good way to lose units for free, because he gets a nice force field, cords off a couple of units, and boom, you just lost like 2 Marines and a Marauder. So what you want to do is leave 1 Marine behind to keep an eye on when he expands, and send your guys back home. And then you want to take little groups as you're heading home, and do little detours on the way back. Just you know, tap the tower maybe. Doesn't actually have to be a group, a single unit's enough. We're looking for proxy pylons because, you know, if he were going for some sort of fort gate behind this or all-in cheese, he might already have a fuller proxy pylon. So nope, just falling back. As you push out, you take your second gas, and then you mine that gas. And then you gotta decide what you want to spend it on. Medevacs, ghosts, +1, combat shield are all things I spend gas on. Usually you can get all of them. Sometimes you have to kind of make a decision between them. But what happened was my Marine back here did see that he was expanding again, so I'm coming back immediately. And if you engage before this finishes, then you can just overrun him. Or force to cancel. Bring some SCVs. I may not even need it though, because I do have... He didn't lose many units though, so maybe I do. I do have stim as well, so it shouldn't be a problem. So he loses some units there. So you know, his last time he's lost $1,500 more than I have. And then again, no reason to push up the ramp. It's a good way to lose units. Sometimes he may have nothing, right? And maybe if you push up ramp, it would have won. But it's not worth risking. You don't want to waste a scan because that's 300 minerals. You don't have any flying units. You can run one Marine up here if you want. But the thing is, you're still going to win. So there's no point even going for that except for to win quicker. Exact same deal as last time. Lifts Marine behind to scout for an expansion timing. And setting off little things just to make sure, as I'm heading back, just to make sure there's no proxies going on. Factory is going to be your spotter, so you want to send that over to his base as soon as possible. Start on medevacs. +1, combat shield's important. I think I may have forgotten that, yep. If you can't afford both, I suggest getting +1 before combat shield, just because +1 takes longer. So the combat shield can catch up and create a nice little timing where you have both of them complete. At this point I feel really far ahead, so I'm just kind of doing the better safe than sorry idea, where I'm getting a bunker, a missile turret in case of DTs, and building it out here just so eventually I can, you know, take this expansion and still have some sort of defense. I like putting marauders in the bunker when I do this. It gives me a little extra range. And it means when the bunker goes down, I'm going to have 2 tough units in the front, and the Marines are safer. It's funny, the Marines not being in the bunker is actually the safest, because usually when they attack, the bunker dies first, then what's inside the bunker dies next. So it looks like he's expanding again. Picked off that Marine, and I'm going to head out. So defensive when you don't see an expo, when he does have an expo, just go kill it. Keep it one base on one base, and that's the way to do it. The problem with this can be, though, if he hasn't lost his Mothership Core in any of those fights, sometimes he has 2 overcharges waiting for it. So factory can spot for an nice EMP. Looks like I got all the Zealots and the Colossus. Didn't get any of the Sentries though. But I think that's enough just to go for it. And despite the EMP, it looks like I'm going to fall back. I lost some units in doing so. I made the EMP kind of useless. So I'm going to wait out this overcharge, but there's probably going to be another overcharge ready. I think I got lucky, but in a lot of these cases there will be another overcharge ready. Because we're talking like the 14-minute mark, so If the mothership core is surviving a lot of battles, it should have 200 energy. But well ahead on army. Well, actually, army side is pretty even. Which probably means he doesn't have any upgrades. So I'm got all my bio upgrades with +1. He has no upgrades, including he doesn't even have thermal lance. So this can act as a distraction if you lead with a factory. Sometimes these stalkers will end up staying in the back and shooting at the factory. I think I just used it more for vision. I saw that there was a Colossus up top and vulnerable, so I kind of came with Vikings. As a bad player, I just I queue up my Vikings to take this long path to attack, and then I'm just going to forget about the Vikings, and during that time set my other attack to come in at the same time. So here we go, here's the stim, some SCVs coming in. And despite the overcharge, I just had too much of an overwhelming upgrade lead and army size lead. It looks like my macro must have failed at some point because I built another command center, but normally I don't even do that. Normally I just mine this until I'm down to like 3 patches and then I transfer over here. As long as I can keep him off of 2 base, I'm happy. Okay, so that was an okay game to show this. Let's pick up another one here. To find another Master League TvP where they built a Nexus. Here's one. I think I need to exit this before I open it. What's going on? I got an alt tab. There we go. Watch replay. Let's see if this works. I'm not sure what this is doing. It logged me out. Okay, here we go. So I'll leave a link in the description to my tutorial for this exact same build, except for when you're facing a 1-basing Protoss. Okay, so here we are in Whirlwinds. The only difference of this being a 4-player map is my first Marine is going to go scouting for the enemy base rather than scouting for a proxy. 1, because I need to find out where he's located, and 2, because a proxy is kind of unlikely given the fact that he doesn't know where I'm located either. Sometimes if he happens to get lucky and scouts you first with his probe, and then his probe leaves like long before your first Marine is out, you should be suspicious that he might be proxying you with that probe. But that's probably the only scenario. And he kind of tips his hand by doing so. So build's exactly the same. We'll retreat a second just so I can go through it really quickly. So depot, I like to put in a place to keep an eye on the best cannon rushing spot, but you can put it wherever you want, maybe close to the middle line to be more economical. Then barracks. 13 of 19, cure your next SCV to build gas. Oops, I did down there. Then you build the next barracks. Populate the gas as soon as it's done. Marine, and then orbital commands. As soon as the Marine's out, you go reactor and supply depot. And then tech lab on the next barracks. These add-ons should finish around the same time, do a full round of production with concussive shell, and then get your next supply depot. So that's what we did. Looks like my opponent has not been scouting at all. But Stalker, Mothership Core, Nexus. Typically the way people open. Sometimes they get the Zealot first before the Stalker, but not often. So I'm ready to poke out with my first 2 Marauders. When that happens, you just kind of want to go. I haven't left yet though, but you've scouted 1 base for sure by that point, so you can kind of run between the 2 bases until this guy gives you the information you need. So heading over to the opponent's base. During that time, I've taken my next gas, and I've started stim as soon as I can. So as soon as combat shield's done, or sorry, as soon as concussive shell's done, you want to start stim. It's a little bit tight, and that's hard to afford their next Marauder and stim during that time, but just get as quickly as you can. And this is where I get my first set of information. And I see the Nexus is complete, so it's probably Stalker Mothership Core. And what you want to do is kill any probes he happens to have hanging out in low ground, or a pylon he happens to make in low ground. And then when you do, just fall back as far away from this Nexus as you can, and put as much damage on as you can. As soon as you get the overcharge, fall back. Looks like I considered actually finishing this Nexus, because I got so much damage done to it. And then I considered killing his Stalker. All I did was kind of take a lot more damage than I should have. I probably could have taken out the Nexus. I think I would have given him the army advantage though, because it would have taken a little bit longer than I thought. I don't have stim yet, and he still had 400 hit points. But anyways, this is why you got stim, right? So when this reads about 120, you want to pull all your SCVs, send them across the field. 130, I guess that's okay. Basically, you want an SCV pull. I'd say about 9 SCVs is perfect. If you killed a bunch of units, like on that little poke, original poke, maybe you can only pull like 6 SCVs. I like pulling 9. It will undersaturate your main. You can see I only got 10 on minerals. Tech up towards factory this time, because you still can afford that. And then the SCVs arrive right when your stim finishes, and then you can go in and attack again. And this time, you have this window where he has no overcharge. He just spends an overcharge, and he's only at 74 energy. And this is the timing that happens so frequently, and I think is what makes this build so good versus Protoss. And even this build is even stronger, I think, in Heartless Swarm just because of this timing. Protoss feels too safe. Like, look what he's doing. He's floating a whole ton. He's deciding to go like DT tech while getting Robo tech at the same time, only adding on his second and third gateways now. And a lot of this is just due to the fact that they feel overly safe due to overcharge. So if you find this anti-timing for overcharge, you can often run into like a Protoss who has no army at all. And that's kind of what happened here. Definitely wouldn't be suspecting DTs though, but when I do get impossibly ahead, I do go by the one behind Dark Shrine motto and just defend against that sort of thing. And that should definitely be doing that now. So at home I should be throwing down Engineering Bay, a bunker either there or over here, Starport, Engineering Bay, and yeah, I got enough gas I can afford going to Ghost as well. So maybe I could have won the game there, but like I said, there's no reason to push up the ramp because it wins one base on one base, you're probably almost always going to win. And one of the ways you could lose is trying to push up a ramp and losing like, you know, $200-300 worth of units and just to get force field and get nothing out of it. So again, as I'm falling back, I'm looking for proxy pylon positions. Maybe pulling someone. Yep, just kind of looking over here. We'll keep a Marine behind his base to watch for expansion time, and as soon as I see an expansion, that's when I push out to kill it. So I should be pushing across the field right now. I'm not. Don't know why. Because I'm not looking at the minimap. Do I have vision on it? I do. Okay, here we go. Pushing across the map now, finally. Which means the Nexus will be done before I arrive, which is unfortunate. It means I'm going to have to face overcharge. There's the defense I was talking about. 2 Marines and a Marauder I think is ideal to have in this once you push out, because that can slow a DT and then the Marines to kill it. There's the overcharge, but too late. I do lose a big chunk of my army though. It's a little bit sloppy there. Units lost tab went a little bit more even. Let's see where we were behind before that fight. We were up by 2,000, and then after the fight, we're only up by 1,500, 1,600. So he did $400 more of damage than I did, and that includes losing a $400 Nexus. So he did, in terms of army, he did $800 more. But I guess he just decides to quit at that point. He probably thinks I'm on 2 base, I guess. But that might have been a preemptive quit, because the army size, he actually has an army advantage. And he's got this DT tech, and he hasn't even tried it out, right? And I haven't spotted it. Definitely a preemptive quit. He must have thought it was assumed I was on 2 base and the game was over. As it turns out, the DTs wouldn't have done much without a Warp Prism. And probably want 1 Marine patrolling up here. And 1 Marine patrolling right here would make sense, just to keep an eye on where Warp Prisms are. With a larger army, he's still going to push in against a bunker though, and this is a larger army, I believe, with 0 upgrades. Yeah, no upgrades on it. Just finishing his +1. I'm just starting my 1-1, so the upgrades will actually be pretty even, but I also have Combat Shield, Stim, and Concussive Shell, and Medivacs, so my other upgrades in tech is very superior to just a handful of Immortals with Gateway units. Okay, so I guess we can load up 1 more game. Let's see if we can find one here. That's Diamond opponent. There's a Master level opponent. Try this one. Huh, log me out again, probably. Watch replay. So the idea is, as you're doing your poke across the field, you're doing your stim upgrade. And then your poke forces the overcharge. So when the overcharge is down, you can have an SCV pull ready with stim, and that should just overrun anything you could have with a fast expand. So let's see if the same scenario happens here. Again, I haven't watched this replay. All I know is that it's a victory where my opponent took a Nexus at some point. So hopefully it works out well. Production tab. So again, quick once over on the build order. Supply depot, I like to keep in spotting the best cannon rushing spot, but whatever. No one cannon rushes anymore. Barracks, I like to do a flush against command center, so if the SCV is ever here, it's unharassable by a probe. 14th SCV makes refinery, and then barracks as soon as you can afford it. 1 Marine. Orbital command. Reactor and supply depot, and then tech lab. And the first Marine is going to go looking for proxy stuff. And then as soon as those 2 add-ons finish, they should finish around the same time, do a full round production, which will be Marauder, 2 Marines, and Combat Shield. Concussive Shell. And prioritize the Marauder over the Concussive Shell if you're just happen to be a little bit short like I was here. I can do a build a million times and still screw it up from the beginning. I like to have the Marauder in the front here, so if he ever pokes up ramp with the Stalker, I can kill the Stalker without the Marines getting in the way. Because you need to stutter step the Marauder towards the Stalker. Stalker's faster than your guys, but with Concussive Shell you can keep him slow. So that's nice, he did a little bit of early pressure. Which means this isn't actually a fast expand. Well, I might pick the wrong game. That actually makes me suspicious. If he lets me walk up a little bit and then force fields, I feel like that's because that's the smart way to do it, and then you get to kill a couple of free units. But if he force fields before I can even see the top of the ramp, I feel like he probably has nothing here, and he's probably going for something super aggressive. Like Oracle or DT Rush. In this case, it wasn't for that reason. It's probably just because he lost 2 units out here and he didn't have enough to defend. So trying again, still didn't see anything. Maybe I'll try one more time. Just finished 3 gates in a row. Did not get his mothership core. So right now I feel like it's against one base play, so I'm actually, yeah, I got the engineering bay already when I saw he's on 1 base, and the bunker, and then I'm gonna get a couple turrets. So this is more like my 1 base tutorial, except there's nothing really scary coming. So I just think I ran them in the corner here out of overcharge range and went back home to macro. But you can see he's down to 16 harvesters. I guess he takes the Nexus at some point because that's how I filter these replays. But this is actually not a good replay to this tutorial on. So let me try finding one more. Let me look at it a little bit closer this time. Open an analyzer. I'm using SC2 gears for this. Filter by action. Nexus. He tries to build Nexus at 7 minutes. That's not really a fast expand. Let me look for another game. Open an analyzer, filter by action. Nexus. Tries to build at 540. That's a little bit more standard. So let's look at this game. Watch replay. Login. Don't forget production tab, because I probably have for certain games. I think we can kind of skim the beginning, because I've gone over the build order quite a few times. But again, depot, barracks flush against command center, so it's harder for him to harass the SCV. See, like right now, I don't have to be chasing this guy because he can't actually harass this SCV. That's why I like playing it flush. Gas on 14, barracks as soon as you can afford it. 1 marine, orbital command, reactor and depot. Where's my depot? There it is. A little bit late on that. And then tech lab, and this 1 round production is going to be concussive shell, marauder, 2 marines. And proxy pylon on the map, but I always search over here. Not sure if he's actually going to be going for proxy thing. Oh, that if he was playing on proxy, that might have screwed him up, because now he doesn't have a probe on the field. He was only on 1 gas though, so I don't think he was planning on it. That was probably just an early pylon, just, you know, before that probe dies, get a pylon across the map. And once I get my second marauder, I start pushing across the map and start my stim upgrade. Looks like I forgot 1 marine. And I forgot my second gas. There we go, second gas. So I just keep making depots, SCVs, and making marauder and 2 marines at a time. And we're going to push in, and it's pretty late expo, so I should probably throw down an engineering bay. Normally when you arrive, the expo is done or pretty close to done. And he's going to cancel it. Heading home, I forgot to leave a marine behind. Looks like I'm doing that now. Swinging back. I was trying to run back to engage again, but I ran into an army. And now, wow, this is kind of chaotic. Getting attacked from multiple sides. He's kind of getting caught in the open too. Okay. So that was kind of a late expo into Nexus. Guess we'll try to look for one more game. So we're looking for an earlier than 5-minute Nexus. Filter actions. Nexus. Put down at 350. That's better. That's a standard expo, and that's the thing I want to talk about for this strategy. Watch replay. Sign in for some reason over and over again. Well, for my other tutorials, I had a pretty good job at selecting replays without actually watching them that applied. I didn't get so lucky this time. So we'll just zip through the front. 2 racks opening. The key to this opening, obviously, is that the second depot doesn't have to be put down until after both barracks. And the reason why I can get away with that is because this is turning into an orbital, this is turning into a reactor, this is turning into a tech lab. So you don't actually supply cap putting down your second depot this late. So first Marine is looking for the opponent's base. As I tech up towards, or build it towards 2 Marauders, and I should push out. And we arrive right here. And we see that's more like get a completed Nexus, second Stalker's complete, and a Mothership core that can overcharge. That is the standard expand. Stalker, Mothership core, Nexus, and then start building more from one gateway. From there you can go up to 3 gateways or a robo like you did here, or some other weird tech choices. So again, when you arrive, until he overcharges, you want to get as much damage done as you can with this. So like this pylon's a nice target. Any probes on low ground is a better target though. So killing off probes. Obviously engage his arm when he can, and as soon as he overcharges, run away. If there's nothing here except for the Nexus, which often you'll find, just keep as far away from those Nexus as you can. Keep your army like here, shooting at the Nexus. Force the overcharge and immediately run away, and that means you can just flee out of the Nexus range a little bit quicker. So he's actually getting a cannon. Interesting. A little bit of misrally on my Marines there. His Observer is going to see that I'm still holding a contain, so he should be a little bit desperate. He's only on 1 gateway still. Expecting Hellbat drops. At least with the cannon there, he can keep his Mothership core a lot closer to here. You can hang it on the edge here, be a good spot. And you can keep your whole army forward. You don't have to worry about protecting drops back here. But there we go, stim is done. SCVs are done. Overcharge is down. And even though I arrived a little bit late, you can still 18 energy away from another overcharge. So facing a cannon, but a lot smaller army, so that kind of balances out. You can see the army tab right now is 1700 over 950. And I got stim and concussive shell. SCVs make great tanks because they heal each other and they soak up damage. And if you ever want them not to be the main target, which sometimes do, just like take them off attack move and they'll stop being the main target. This time I decided to go into his base. It got up the ramp, which was fine, but I ran into a cannon, which is not fine. Still looks like I'm gonna get some probe kills. Not many though. It's not the most efficient trading there. I kind of threw away an army that killed nothing. That little hit squad did a little bit better. One more? Yeah. So 14 Harvesters, and the game's basically over now. Typically you want to leave a Marine behind here to keep an eye on when he expands again, but I didn't take out all these structures. The pylon's really key, and obviously you need to take out these geysers if you want to be able to hide a Marine. But playing it safe when behind Dark Shrine, so I'm going to get a bunker and a turret at the front. Probably want a Marine patrolling like this back here, and maybe a Marine patrolling over here, or a second turret over here, either or. Once you get fully saturated here, you can actually just create more SCVs to distance mine. which is very low income, but at least it kind of oversaturates one base. And the whole idea of why one base on one base favors you is that you can oversaturate a base with mules. Notice how mules and SCVs can mine at the same time. So we both have a fully saturated base, I'm bringing in more money. And then if these engagements go well, which they often do, I'm also ahead on units lost tab. So those are two reasons why my army should be bigger than his. So I guess I'm relying on my factory for my scouting. And it's going to arrive in time to see the exact timing of this nexus. So that was a little bit lucky. If you threw it down right away, I wouldn't have known until it was already complete. So there it is. And as soon as I see it, I pull my army over. Oops, what did I do? And actually forced to cancel. And the Saudi canceled, so I had to back home again. So I'm going to take a late expo rather than expand, probably because I was floating money and could afford that. Ran that factory in again, Saudi is expanding. As soon as you see him expand, go attack. If you go right away, you can actually attack before he has you can actually attack before the Nexus is complete. Because the Nexus takes, I believe, what, 180 seconds to build? Let's move back. I could be wrong. Maybe it's like 90 seconds. 100 seconds to build, and it probably takes you around 40 to 50 seconds to cross the map. Maps are bigger these days, so maybe 50 seconds to cross the map with your bio. And in fact, bio is slower than SCVs, so maybe say 60 seconds to cross the map. That gives you a 40-second window where you can attack, and he cannot overcharge this. So as long as you react quickly, and that's why it's nice to have the Marine behind, keeping an eye out for this. Whenever I see an Immortal opening, I like to get 2 ghosts rather than 1. Just because with Mortals usually come sentries. They kind of work well together. The sentries cut it off so like you can attack a portion of my army from range, and they have a whole bunch of range units like Stalkers, Sentries, and Mortals. And both Sentries and Mortals are really juicy EMP targets, so I like to have 2. So I used to use the medevac to spot with. I only got 1 EMP off because he actually fed back me first. That's pretty cool. To even make a single Templar, and that must have been for the purpose of feedback, because if you would have made 2 if you wanted to make a quick Archon, and you wouldn't have made 1 at all if you hadn't even started Storm yet. So that was cute. I guess he had an observer down there to see it. But again, from everything else, my army's just so much bigger. The Templar tech that never came to fruition is money lost. Losing his army, like losing his base and his probes, and even a handful of probes over here, that put him way behind economically. The fact that I can oversaturate my base of mules puts me ahead economically. And then the favorable trade, when we did clash, units lost tab was obviously well in my favor. Well, maybe it wasn't well in my favor. I did throw away a lot in his natural. But, or I threw away a lot in his main base. Let's see, after that battle, 10-minute mark. So yeah, I was still 1500 ahead, even though I threw away a lot of units up here just to kill probes. So that's my 2-axe play versus an expansion. Obviously, if you do an attack on his natural and you aren't able to kill his natural, then you're in very, very rough shape. I just keep transitioning into like a harder and harder all-in. Like I don't try to take an expo myself to come back, because he'll have already started his tech. His expo have been down long before mine. So this is all about keeping a 1 base on 1 base. And of course, the power of this build is just the way it works against the standard metagame Protoss. The timings are so perfect. You poke in with your first 2 Marauders at around 6 minutes. And whatever Marines you have, you do whatever damage you can until you get the overcharge. There's the overcharge and you pull back. And then with the overcharge, you see as long as you start that stim right away, it should be done soon. So it's done in more than a minute, but less than 2 minutes. And this mothership core is probably 3 minutes away from overcharging again. So you pull back, you wait for the stim upgrade to finish. As soon as it finishes, I want to attack. So you can see my SCV pull just arrived. Stim back's about to finish. And boom, you got an SCV pull. Auto-repairing SCVs tank so much damage against all this low DPS stuff. And that allows all your bio to do so much damage from behind because of its stim. And mothership core is still 25 energy away from still away from overcharging. If this tax gets shoot away and you didn't really do any damage, you probably lost the game. If you come and you steamroll this and get some probe and army kills on top of it, you've basically won the game right then. Sometimes he'll evacuate everything to the high ground and just give you the Nexus, then you probably haven't won the game, but you're definitely ahead. Another thing is maybe he holds you off, but he pulled all his probes from his natural and lost like 10 probes. In that case, you can just come back again with a similar all-in with just say like with a second time, maybe with when your combat shield and your first 2 medevacs are out. And that'll be okay, because even though he maintained a second base and he's going to be on 2 base economy for a long time, it's not going to be a real 2 base economy because he lost like 10, 15 probes. So he's not fully saturated on 2 bases, which means he's not getting far ahead during that time. And those are basically the scenarios. But this timing works so well where you force the overcharge to your first little poke and then come back with stim and SCVs that I think this build is just really good at winning a lot of games. The other thing is Protoss these days feel overconfident now they have a mothership core. So sometimes you'll come back here and it'll literally be like you'll have 3 times his army size because he's going, double upgrades and 2 different tech routes. And like he's banking some money because he hasn't even thrown down his gateways yet. Because he's chrono boosting probes instead of chrono boosting warp gate tech or something like that. So it's like the metagame advantage of them feeling safer than they are, and then the actual timing advantage of it just working out so well as an anti-timing to when the mothership core can overcharge. His army is pretty tiny. He does have the cannon though, but yeah, that's a tiny army. It says 900 though. Is that actually 900 right here, and just in the mothership core? The other thing is, compared to Wings of Liberty, he's also invested like 100 minerals and 100 gas into a unit that delayed his probe production because he had to build that from a Nexus, and is also basically a pretty useless unit for the attack since it can't actually overcharge. Unless he wants to waste it on a time warp. Sometimes they're on the fence, right? Because they usually attack when they have 8 energy and they're like, well, should I use the time warp so I'm actually using something useful, or should I try to just wait and then overcharge this Nexus before it dies? And the latter option is often what Protoss chooses, but obviously it'll never actually work because you'll have killed his army and most of the Nexus before you can even overcharge. And there's no point overcharging a Nexus that's on the verge of death or already dead. This cannon actually came really handy. Without that cannon, I might have actually killed all his probes. I did send this stuff home though. The other thing kind of works out well too is like you use a stim or 2 here, you kill this base, and then you head back home. And usually when you head back home, that's when your medevacs are arriving. Because as you're doing that push, like when you send the SCV pull out, like over here to do that push, that's around the time you throw down the factory. So about 2 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes after that, you're going to have medevacs. So again, that's my 2-Rax play versus Protoss, and this video is, well, for the most part anyways, was against the Protoss who takes fast expand. Again, check the description below, and I'll show you like the different variants I do against a Protoss who, when I do my original poke at 6 minutes, I see no Nexus. I guess it's more like 6:30 typically. So if this poke comes in and sees nothing, there's a whole series of reactions I won't get into, but the ways to handle it if you're against 1-base Protoss, which could be like a powering Immortal all in, it could be fast DTs, it could be fast Oracle, or it could just be a whole ton of gateway units. Sometimes when they scout your 2-Rax, most Protoss players feel like they're still safe to expand, but some players are like, oh, 2-Rax, I just, if he's staying 1-base, I'm going to stay 1-base too. So sometimes it's a reaction that he doesn't take an expo and just builds a bunch of gateway units. Yeah, but you can check that out in the description of how to deal with 1-base toss, and this is 2-base toss. So the combined, that is the complete tutorial on how I do my 2-Rax play versus Protoss. Very all-in-ish, but every TvP is all-in-ish, you know. If you're not doing a 1-base all-in, you're probably doing a 2-base timing, because no one wants to face Protoss when they have Colossus and Templar and they are able to hit their 3/3 upgrades long before you can. That's just a bad spot to be in. Yeah, so that's the end of that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Check the description for a thumbs up link. And I'm out of here. Goodbye.